The sun was setting over the distant human colony on planet Zoria, casting long orange shadows across the metal buildings. The wind carried the faint hum of machines and the soft chatter of workers finishing their day. Among them walked Eli, a young engineer known for his curiosity and courage. He paused to look at the horizon where the sky seemed to twist with colors he had never seen before. Something about it felt wrong, a chill crawling up his spine. Suddenly, alarms began to blare, echoing across the colony. Red lights flashed and a deep, vibrating hum shook the ground. People ran in all directions, shouting warnings and trying to find safety. The colony's guards, trained for emergencies, were the first to act, but instead of organizing defense, panic took hold. Many of them turned and ran towards the evacuation ships, leaving chaos behind. Eli's heart pounded as he watched the guards flee. He could not move, his mind racing. Something, or someone, was coming, and it was heading straight for the colony's central chamber. The alien queen, a creature of enormous size and strange beauty, emerged from the sky like a shadow in motion. Her body shimmered with colors that seemed alive, twisting and pulsing with light. Her eyes, vast and luminous, scanned the colony below. She moved gracefully but with purpose, each step shaking the ground slightly. The humans around Eli screamed and scattered, but he felt a strange pull, a sense that he could not turn away. Eli ran toward the central chamber, ignoring the chaos. The queen's presence was terrifying, yet he sensed she was not attacking indiscriminately. Perhaps she had a purpose, something important that he did not yet understand. He reached the chamber doors and pressed his hand against the control panel, praying it would open in time. The doors slid open with a hiss, revealing the shimmering corridor beyond. He stepped inside, heart racing, knowing he was now completely alone. Outside, the guards' screams faded as their ships lifted off the ground. Eli's eyes returned to the queen as she moved closer. Her massive form filled the sky, and yet there was a calmness in her motion, as if she was searching for something. He noticed the way she paused near a broken communications tower, tilting her head in a gesture that almost seemed curious. Eli realized then that the queen was not hostile to him or the colony itself. Something else had brought her here, something dangerous and unseen. The ground shook again, and distant explosions echoed from the perimeter. Eli crouched behind a panel for cover, his mind raced for solutions. He remembered the energy shields around the chamber, designed for emergencies. Quickly, he ran to the control console, fingers flying over the buttons and levers. He activated the shields just as a massive shadow appeared at the edge of the colony. It was not the queen. This was another alien, more aggressive, moving faster than any human could. Eli held his breath as the shield sparked to life, a glowing barrier between the queen and the approaching threat. He glanced at her through the energy field, and for the first time, their eyes met. The queen's gaze was intense, almost intelligent, and it felt as if she was studying him, understanding him. Then came the sound of metal tearing, the alien attackers smashing through walls. Eli realized the colony's defenses alone could not hold them back, only quick thinking and courage could save them now. He ran through the chamber, checking panels and rerouting power. Every second counted, every choice could mean life or death. Outside, the queen moved closer to the central hub, her form like a living fortress. Eli understood something crucial. He had to protect her, for if she fell, the entire planet could be overrun. He set traps and automated defenses, using every skill he had learned as an engineer. The air was thick with tension, the sound of alarms, the hum of machinery, and the low growl of approaching alien forces blending into a symphony of danger. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, throwing Eli to the floor. He could see the shadows of attackers moving closer, their forms strange, almost insect-like. Their eyes glowed red, and their movements were coordinated, almost intelligent. Eli scrambled to his feet, activating the last line of defense. The chamber doors hissed and locked automatically, forming a barrier against the advancing swarm. He could hear the queen's massive footsteps approaching, each one a reminder of the immense power he was protecting. For a moment, everything was still, the world holding its breath. Eli's mind raced with fear and determination. He was alone, surrounded by chaos, yet he felt a strange confidence, a human alone, standing against impossible odds, watching over a being far larger and older than himself. He knew the story of this day would be told for generations, how one human stayed when all others ran. The alien queen's form shimmered in the fading light, and Eli took a deep breath, ready to face whatever would come next. The horizon glowed with the promise of battle, and the first clash of forces could be heard in the distance. Eli's heart raced, but he did not falter. His journey had begun, and the fate of both human and alien rested on his courage. The guards had run, the colony trembled, but one human stayed, and the story of that courage was about to unfold. The alien queen moved slowly through the central chamber, her massive form casting shadows across the walls. Eli watched her carefully, noting the strange patterns in her shimmering skin and the way her eyes seemed to glow with intelligence. He could feel her power, a quiet strength that filled the room, yet there was no threat directed at him. Only the approaching alien invaders were dangerous now. Eli took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. He had faced dangerous machinery and risky missions before, but nothing like this. The fate of the colony, the queen, and perhaps even the future of their world rested on his actions. He approached the console again, rerouting power to defensive turrets and activating emergency protocols. The lights flickered as systems came to life, and the chamber hummed with energy. Outside, distant explosions shook the walls, and he could hear the screeching of alien attackers. They were fast, ruthless, and relentless, yet Eli did not hesitate. He knew that running was no longer an option. He had to face this threat, not for himself, but for the queen who had come to his world. For reasons he did not yet understand, she had chosen this place, and he could not let her fall. He paused for a moment, looking at the queen, and something in her gaze caught him by surprise. It was not anger, nor hunger, but curiosity and intelligence. Could she understand him, he wondered? Could she know that he was trying to protect her? His mind raced, and he realized that communication might be possible, in a way beyond words. He reached out a hand slowly, careful not to startle her, and she tilted her head slightly, studying him. Eli knew he had only minutes to prepare. The alien attackers were already breaching outer walls, their red eyes glowing in the dark, their claws tearing through metal. It was clear that conventional weapons would not hold them for long. He had to be clever, to think like the enemy and use his human ingenuity to gain an advantage. He ran through schematics of the chamber in his mind, plotting traps, activating automated defenses, and rerouting power where it was most needed. As he worked, he felt a strange connection with the queen, a silent understanding that they were now linked by fate. She moved closer to the center of the chamber, positioning herself in a way that allowed him to use her presence as a shield. Her enormous body was not a weapon to him, but a partner in strategy, a living fortress. Suddenly, the chamber shook violently as the first wave of alien attackers broke through the outer doors. Eli ducked behind a panel, heart pounding, and watched as the creatures stormed inside. Their movements were coordinated, almost intelligent, their glowing red eyes scanning for their target. Eli activated a turret, sending a blast of energy that knocked several attackers back, but more were coming, relentless and fast. He realized that brute force alone would not work. He needed to think, to outsmart them. His eyes scanned the room, spotting weak points in the walls and floor. He rerouted power to traps, creating barriers and energy pulses that confused the attackers. Some fell into the traps, others tried to avoid them, their aggression never lessening. The queen moved in sync with his actions, her massive form shifting to block paths and protect the chamber. Eli felt awe and respect for the creature, and he knew that her presence was more than physical, it was strategic, and somehow, she understood that he was the one holding the line. The bond between human and alien was growing, a silent partnership formed under fire. Minutes felt like hours, and Eli's mind raced with calculations and decisions. He had to predict the attackers' movements, to anticipate their next strike. He used every skill he had, his training as an engineer and his quick thinking, turning the chamber into a maze of traps and defenses. Each pulse of energy, each mechanical barrier, slowed the alien advance, giving him more time. Then came a moment of clarity, a plan forming in his mind. He would lead the attackers toward a central trap that could immobilize them, using the queen as a lure and shield. He calculated the timing perfectly. The first few attackers fell into the trap as he predicted, energy nets wrapping around their limbs and immobilizing them. Their shrieks echoed through the chamber, but more were still coming. Eli paused for a moment, looking at the queen, who stood calm and magnificent amidst the chaos. He realized that courage alone was not enough. Human intelligence, strategy, and willpower were just as important. He could not let fear control him, not when so much depended on his actions. The guards had run, leaving him alone, but now he knew that running was never the answer. The next wave of attackers was forming outside, their numbers growing, and Eli's resolve hardened. He would not fail. not for the colony, not for the Queen, and not for humanity itself. Every step, every decision mattered now, and he was ready to face the storm head-on. The Queen's eyes met his again, and in that gaze, Eli found a strange encouragement, a silent promise that together, they could survive. The horizon glowed with the first signs of the alien assault, and the humans' resolve burned brighter than the approaching chaos. Eli's heart raced, but his mind was sharp, and his courage unshakable. Alone, he had stayed when all others ran, and now, he would prove that humans could face the impossible with wisdom, bravery, and determination. The alien attackers advanced through the colony, their glowing red eyes scanning for the Queen and the human who dared to stand with her. Eli's heart raced as he monitored their movements from the control console. His mind worked faster than ever, calculating the timing of each trap, each pulse of energy. He had to outsmart creatures stronger and faster than any human. The Queen shifted her massive form, blocking corridors and guiding the attackers toward the traps Eli had prepared. Each step she took shook the floor, forcing some of the aliens to stumble, giving him precious seconds. Eli activated a series of energy pulses, the air shimmering with force fields, catching the attackers off guard. Some fell back, others tried to find another path, but every move led them deeper into the maze he had created. Eli felt a surge of confidence, but he knew it would not last long. The aliens were learning, adapting, their strategy evolving with every encounter. He needed to stay ahead, anticipate their next moves before they happened. He quickly rerouted power to the turret network, activating a series of rapid-fire blasts that drove the creatures back temporarily. Their shrieks echoed through the chamber, a sound that chilled even him. Outside, the remaining guards watched from a distance, their ships hovering uselessly. They had abandoned the colony, but Eli did not think of them. His focus was entirely on survival and protection. The Queen moved with him as they maneuvered through the chamber, her massive eyes glowing with intelligence, as if she understood his plan perfectly. Together, they were a team, human and alien working in perfect sync. The attackers regrouped, faster this time, their claws tearing through metal and concrete. Eli felt the ground tremble under their weight. He had to act quickly, or the Queen would be overwhelmed. He noticed a narrow corridor leading to an older section of the colony, where structural weaknesses could be used to his advantage. With a few calculated commands, he collapsed part of the ceiling, blocking the attackers' path temporarily. Some of the creatures were trapped under rubble, their screeches filling the air. Others tried to push through, but Eli activated more energy barriers, forcing them into confined spaces where traps and turrets could strike efficiently. He watched the Queen maneuver among the obstacles, her massive body protecting vital systems and acting as a shield for him. His respect for her grew with every movement. She was not just powerful, she was intelligent, tactical, and brave. Eli's mind raced as he realized the battle was not just physical, it was a test of intelligence, strategy, and quick thinking. The attackers were relentless, but he had the advantage of preparation and foresight. He anticipated their movements, predicting how they would react to each trap. Each success gave him confidence, but he knew one mistake could be fatal. A sudden alarm sounded as one group of attackers found a weak point in the defenses. Eli acted instantly, activating emergency lockdowns and sending a surge of power to the chamber doors. The attackers were momentarily pushed back, but they adapted, finding new paths and exploiting other weaknesses. He had to be faster, smarter, more precise. The battle of minds had begun, and every second counted. The Queen let out a low, resonating sound, and Eli realized it was a form of communication, a signal, a warning, or perhaps advice. He could not be sure. He followed her movements closely, adjusting his strategies in real time. Each pulse, each gesture mattered. The attackers were clever, but they did not anticipate the human-alien partnership. Their numbers were growing, yet they hesitated, unsure how to breach the defenses Eli had set with the Queen's silent guidance. Eli took a deep breath, focusing on the next move. He activated a new series of energy nets and trapdoors, drawing the aliens into confined spaces where turrets could strike. The first wave fell, immobilized, struggling to escape, but the battle was far from over. Another group approached from the opposite side, faster, angrier, more organized. He had to adapt again, using everything he knew to turn the tide. The chamber became a battlefield of intelligence, courage, and quick thinking. Eli moved like a conductor of an orchestra, the Queen moving in perfect rhythm with him. Together, they outsmarted and outmaneuvered creatures that would have terrified anyone else. The humans who had run would never believe that a single engineer and an alien queen could hold the line, but here they were, rewriting the rules of courage and strategy. As the last of the first wave fell into the traps, Eli paused, wiping sweat from his brow. The queen stood still for a moment, her massive form gleaming in the chamber lights. He knew this was only the beginning. The battle of minds had been won for now, but the war was far from over. Eli felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, knowing that every choice he had made mattered. The human who stayed had made a difference, and together with the queen, they had proven that courage and intelligence could face even the deadliest enemies. The dust settled from the first wave of attackers, but the air was thick with tension and fear. Eli knew the next wave would be stronger, smarter, and more ruthless. The colony trembled under the distant sounds of alien engines and the screech of claws on metal. He glanced at the queen, who stood calm, almost regal, her massive form a living shield against the approaching danger. Eli ran through the chamber, checking the traps and energy barriers. He adjusted their timing, strengthened weak points, and ensured every system was ready for the next assault. He felt a strange connection with the queen, as if she trusted him completely, and in return, he felt a fierce loyalty to her. This was no longer just a mission to protect the colony, but a bond formed in the heat of battle. The first group of the second wave crashed through the perimeter walls, faster and more coordinated than before, their glowing red eyes locked on the queen, seeking to strike at her first. Eli knew he could not let that happen. He moved quickly, activating turrets, energy nets, and trapdoors, forcing the attackers into confined spaces where they could be neutralized, but some managed to break through, reaching the queen's side, and Eli realized that courage alone would not be enough. He leapt forward, using his body to block the creature's advance. The queen's massive form shifted, shielding him partially, but the attackers were relentless. Their claws grazed his armor, tearing through metal, yet Eli did not falter. Each strike, each moment, was a test of human will and resilience. He could feel pain and fear, but he pushed both aside, focusing only on keeping the queen safe. A sudden explosion rocked the chamber, sending debris flying across the floor. Eli ducked and rolled, narrowly avoiding a crushing beam. When he looked up, several attackers had surrounded the queen, and he knew he had to act. Without hesitation, he activated the final line of defense, an energy pulse that surged across the chamber, stunning the attackers long enough for him to grab a heavy piece of debris and hurl it between them and the queen. The queen let out a low, resonating hum, and Eli felt as if she understood the full extent of his sacrifice. Every human instinct in him screamed to flee, but he stayed, placing himself between the queen and the attackers. He knew that if he fell, the colony would be lost, and so would she. The attackers hesitated for a moment, sensing his determination, and that pause was all Eli needed. He activated the traps with precision, sending energy nets and mechanical barriers to block the remaining attackers. Each trap worked perfectly, capturing some and slowing others, giving the queen space to move safely. Eli's heart pounded, and he could feel his strength waning, yet he refused to retreat. His loyalty and courage held him steady, stronger than fear or exhaustion. A massive alien brute charged directly at Eli, ignoring the queen entirely, its claws aimed at him, its glowing eyes burning with malice. Eli braced himself, and at the last second, he ducked, causing the creature to crash into one of his carefully set traps, and snaring it completely. He rolled to his feet, breathing heavily, but knowing that the next attack could be even worse. The battle was far from over. Yet he had proven that humans could fight with brains and heart, not just strength. The queen shifted her form to guide Eli toward a safer position, as if recognizing the limits of human endurance. He followed, grateful for her silent understanding, and at that moment, he realized the true meaning of loyalty. Sacrifice was not only about risking life but about staying true to one's purpose, protecting those who could not protect themselves. He had chosen to stay when all others ran, and that choice defined him. Outside, the distant sky glowed with the fire of approaching alien ships, signaling the next wave. Eli could feel his body aching, but he knew he could not give up. The queen's massive form moved beside him, protective and commanding, and together, they formed a barrier of flesh and courage against the oncoming storm. Every decision, every act of bravery, strengthened the bond between human and alien. As the shadows of the next attackers fell across the colony, Eli braced himself, knowing he might have to risk everything to keep the queen safe. He thought of the humans who had fled, and he felt no anger, only resolve, for he had chosen to stay, and that choice carried with it the power of hope, courage, and loyalty. The queen's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, the world seemed still, as if acknowledging the humans' determination. The battle would continue, fiercer and more dangerous, but Eli knew that his loyalty could make the impossible possible. The alien queen depended on him, and he would not fail, not when he had chosen to stay, not when the fate of many rested in his hands. The horizon glowed with the promise of the next fight, and Eli's heart burned with courage, ready to face the storm and prove that humans could stand when all others fled. The sun barely rose above the horizon, casting a pale light over the battered colony. Eli stood beside the alien queen, their bodies tense, ready for the final assault. The last wave of attackers approached, faster and more organized than anything he had faced before. He could hear the ground tremble under their feet, their glowing eyes scanning for weakness. Eli's mind raced as he checked the last defenses. The energy barriers were holding, but only just. The queen's massive form shifted beside him, protective and aware, as if she understood that this moment would decide everything. He could feel her intelligence, a silent encouragement that gave him strength beyond human limits. The first of the attackers broke through the perimeter walls, their claws tearing through the metal gates. Eli activated the final traps, sending energy pulses and mechanical barriers that forced the aliens into narrow corridors, where their size became a disadvantage. He watched as they fell into carefully planned traps, immobilized and confused, their red eyes burning with rage and fear. The queen moved in perfect sync with his actions, her enormous body shielding vital systems and guiding attackers into his defenses. Eli marveled at her intelligence, realizing that together, they were more than the sum of their parts. Their bond, formed through danger and courage, was now unbreakable, and it gave him hope in the face of overwhelming odds. Despite the chaos, Eli's mind remained clear, focused on strategy and timing. He knew the attackers would adapt, so he stayed one step ahead, activating turrets and energy nets at precise moments, forcing the aliens into positions where their strength became a weakness. One by one, the creatures were caught, slowed, and defeated. A massive alien brute charged directly at the queen, its claws ready to strike. Eli acted instantly, positioning a large energy trap in its path. The creature was caught, struggling violently, giving the queen time to move to safety. Eli's quick thinking and courage had saved her, and he felt a surge of pride, knowing that humans could triumph through intelligence and bravery. Outside, the remaining attackers hesitated, sensing the combined power of human and alien. Eli knew this was the moment to turn the tide completely. He pushed every system to maximum power, creating barriers and traps that forced the attackers into a narrow canyon of destruction. The queen followed his lead, her massive body moving with grace and precision, acting as both shield and guide. The battle raged, but the aliens were losing ground. Their numbers dwindled as they fell into traps, and fear spread among them. Eli felt the exhaustion weighing on him, every muscle aching, every breath heavy, yet he refused to stop. Every human instinct and learned skill came together in this final stand, proving that courage and intelligence could overcome brute force. Finally, the last of the attackers retreated, their glowing red eyes disappearing into the distant horizon. Eli collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily, but the queen remained beside him, massive and powerful, yet calm, almost serene. She let out a low, resonating hum, and Eli felt it as a signal of gratitude and understanding, a recognition of his bravery. The colony was safe, the queen unharmed, and the humans who had fled earlier would never forget the courage of the one who stayed. Eli stood, wiping the sweat and grime from his face, looking at the queen with respect and awe. They had survived together, and in that survival, a new bond was formed between species, one built on trust, courage, and mutual respect. Eli's thoughts drifted to the future, to the possibility of humans and aliens working together, protecting and learning from one another. He realized that this day would be remembered not only as a battle but as proof of human resilience, intelligence, and bravery. The guards may have run, but one human had stayed, and that choice had changed everything. The queen's massive form shimmered in the rising light, and Eli understood that this was only the beginning, that humans could face impossible odds, protect the defenseless, and triumph through courage and ingenuity. He felt a sense of pride, a connection to something greater than himself, and a hope that together, humans and aliens could build a future of understanding and alliance. As the dust settled and the colony began to repair itself, Eli stood tall beside the queen, ready for whatever would come next. His heart burned with the knowledge that humanity had proven its worth, that courage, loyalty, and intelligence could overcome fear and chaos. The guards had run, but he had stayed, and in staying, he had shown what it meant to be human. The horizon glowed with calm after the storm, the alien queen watching over him, and Eli knew that the story of this day would be told for generations. A human had stood when all others fled, and together with the queen, they had triumphed against impossible odds. The tale of courage, loyalty, and intelligence would live on, inspiring those who dared to face the unknown.